The observation deck of the Corvathi warship hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of antimatter engines. Commander Elsa stood before the holographic display, her four eyes analyzing the battlefield data with practiced efficiency. Her chitinous exoskeleton, marked with 17 scars from 17 campaigns, gleamed under the ship's bioluminescent panels. The Corvathi had fought wars for 3,000 cycles. They had conquered 12 species, absorbed 4 others, and established themselves as the dominant military force in the Andromeda sector. Elsa herself had commanded fleets that reduced civilizations to ash. She had seen courage, witnessed desperation, and understood the mathematics of warfare with crystalline clarity. But she had never encountered humans. "Commander," her tactical officer clicked in their native language, mandibles twitching with uncertainty. "The human defensive line on Sigma-7 remains unbroken. Our projections indicated collapse 14 hours ago." Elsa's primary eyes narrowed. The humans had arrived in this sector only 40 standard years ago, primitive creatures still learning to manipulate quantum fields. When the Corvathi expansion reached their colony worlds, the High Command had estimated a 3-week campaign. That was 6 months ago. "Show me the siege data from Outpost Meridian," Elsa commanded. The hologram shifted, displaying a desolate ice planet where humans had established a mining operation. The Corvathi had surrounded them with overwhelming force, 50,000 warriors against 800 human defenders. The humans had no orbital support, limited ammunition, and temperatures that averaged minus 70 degrees Celsius. They should have surrendered within days. Instead, they fought for 43 days. Elsa watched the recordings, her translator implant struggling with human battlefield communications. What it captured made her secondary hearts beat faster. Ammunition depleted on the eastern perimeter. Fix bayonets. Medic down. Anyone with basic training get to Sector 4. Hold the line, just hold it. The humans had repurposed mining equipment into weapons. When their exosuits failed in the cold, they fought without environmental protection. Elsa watched as soldiers, their skin turning blue from frostbite, continued operating weapons until their fingers literally froze to the triggers. Medical officers worked without anesthetic, performing amputations with plasma cutters designed for rock. One recording showed a human. The file identified him as Sergeant Adam Chen, directing fire from a bunker while his left arm hung uselessly, shattered by shrapnel. He had refused evacuation for 16 hours until the position was finally overrun. Even then, he had fought with one arm until Corvathi warriors pulled him from a collapsed tunnel, still conscious, still attempting to detonate charges. "They are illogical," Elsa's tactical officer observed. "Their physiology is fragile. They lack redundant organs, their bones break easily, their temperature tolerance is narrow, yet they persist beyond all biological limitations." Elsa said nothing. She pulled up another file. The Battle of Kepler Station. Humans defending a civilian evacuation fleet. They had formed a rearguard with 12 destroyers against a Corvathi assault fleet of 80 capital ships. Naval doctrine dictated they should retreat, preserve their forces, accept the loss of the civilians to save their military assets. Instead, they charged. The destroyer captains had transmitted their final messages as they burned through their reactor cores, deliberately overloading their engines to generate electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Corvathi targeting systems. Elsa watched as human ships, their hulls glowing red from reactor overheats, rammed her species' dreadnoughts at relativistic speeds. The crews had known it was suicide. They did it anyway. The civilian fleet escaped. "Pull psychological profiles on human combat personnel," Elsa ordered. "I want to understand their conditioning protocols." The data arrived within minutes. Elsa absorbed it, her mind processing the information in parallel. What she discovered disturbed her more than any battlefield footage. The humans weren't conditioned. They weren't genetically engineered for aggression like the Corvathi. They didn't undergo neural programming like the synthesis species. They weren't driven by hive imperatives like the Zenth. They were just volunteers, citizens who chose to fight, driven by concepts Elsa's translator struggled to render: duty, honor, love for those behind them. "This is their natural behavior?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Confirmed, Commander. Humans evolved on a death world. Class 12 hazard rating. Their homeworld features tectonically unstable continents, extreme weather systems, predators that hunted them for millions of years, and diseases that killed billions. They developed complex social bonds as a survival mechanism." Elsa pulled up Earth's profile. Gravity 1.2 times Corvathi standard. Atmospheric oxygen percentage high enough to fuel rapid combustion. Weather systems that could generate winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Oceans covering 70% of the surface, containing creatures that could swallow their boats whole. And humans had thrived there. She thought of the Corvathi homeworld, stable and predictable, where evolution had been steady and orderly. Her species had developed technology while humanity was still dodging predators in jungles. Yet when pushed to the edge, humans did something the Corvathi never did. They refused to acknowledge the edge existed. "Bring up the current situation on Sigma-7, Elsa commanded, her voice quieter now. The hologram displayed the ongoing siege. The human defenders had been surrounded for 3 weeks. Corvathi forces outnumbered them 20 to 1. Supply lines were cut. Orbital bombardment had reduced their fortifications to rubble. The humans were still fighting. Elsa zoomed in on one particular section of the line. A human soldier, her armor identified him as Private Adam Tors, was manning a plasma repeater despite having sustained injuries that would have killed most Corvathi. His medical readouts, intercepted from human communications, showed 3 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and severe radiation poisoning from a reactor breach. He had been fighting for 11 hours straight. As Elsa watched, a Corvathi assault team breached his position. Adam didn't retreat. He couldn't run with his injuries. Instead, he pulled a shaped charge from his vest, armed it, and held his ground. The explosion consumed him and 17 Corvathi warriors. The human line didn't break. Elsa's 4 eyes closed, one by one. In 3,000 cycles of warfare, she had learned to calculate acceptable losses, strategic withdrawals, efficient victories. The Corvathi way of war was mathematical, elegant, rational. Humans didn't fight rationally. They fought like their entire species would die if they took one step backward. Every single one of them carried an intensity that suggested they were defending the last habitable world in the universe, even when they were fighting over an insignificant mining outpost. "Commander," her tactical officer prompted, "the High Command requests your assessment. Should we commit additional forces to Sigma-7? Elsa opened her eyes. She thought of Sergeant Adam Chen, refusing evacuation with one arm. Private Adam Tors, turning himself into a bomb. Thousands of other humans whose names she didn't know, who had died in ways that defied military logic. She thought of the human destroyer captains who had burned their ships to save strangers, the medics who worked without anesthetic, the soldiers who fought with frostbitten hands frozen to their weapons. The Corvathi could conquer humanity. Eventually. With enough ships, enough warriors, enough time, they could overwhelm human defenses through sheer numerical superiority. But the cost? Elsa had calculated costs her entire career. She understood attrition ratios, resource expenditure, strategic value. For the first time in 3,000 cycles of Corvathi expansion, the mathematics didn't favor victory. "Send a communication to High Command," Elsa said slowly, each word carrying the weight of revolution. "Recommend immediate cessation of hostilities with humanity. Propose diplomatic negotiations." Her tactical officer's mandibles locked in shock. "Commander." Elsa gestured at the hologram, at the humans still fighting on Sigma-7, outnumbered and outgunned but unbroken. "We can defeat them," she said quietly, "but we will destroy ourselves doing it. These creatures evolved on a death world that tried to kill them for millions of years. They survived by refusing to die even when logic said they should. They didn't develop technology to escape their world's cruelty. They developed it while enduring that cruelty." She paused, watching another human position fall, watching the defenders refuse to surrender even as plasma fire consumed their bunker. "We Corvathi are warriors," Elsa continued. "But humans are survivors. There is a difference. Warriors can be beaten. Survivors simply will not stop." The hologram flickered, showing the wider battlefield. Human forces were losing by every conventional metric. Territory, resources, manpower, all favored the Corvathi. But humans weren't surrendering. They would never surrender. Elsa understood that now, in a way that transcended tactical analysis. She had seen species fight before. She had seen courage and desperation and sacrifice. But she had never seen an entire species that approached every battle as if defeat was literally impossible, as if the concept of surrender didn't exist in their collective consciousness. The war-toughened commander, veteran of 17 campaigns, conqueror of civilizations, finally understood what made humans different. They were already broken when they started. Their world had broken them millions of years ago, and instead of dying, they had learned to keep fighting while broken. That wasn't courage, that wasn't even stubbornness. That was something far more terrifying. It was normal for them,